Alright, so this is going to be my UFL Championship Preview for the 2025 season. The championship is this weekend. I can't believe the season's over already. It's been a very fun season. But let's get started here. So we are going to talk a little bit about our top performances from the last week's games. I'm really just going to mention the Michigan and the DC guys because those are the only two teams playing. So those are the only two teams that really matter anymore. But Bryce Perkins was amazing in this game. All right, he was 20 for 25 for 238 yards and a touchdown, with another 34 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Over 270 yards and 2 touchdowns with an 80% completion rate is amazing for a guy who has not played in almost a month. So no rest showed for him. That's obviously really good for Michigan fans. He was amazing. Then you got Toa Tawa, who had nearly 100 total yards with 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. He was amazing as well. Malik Turner had nearly 100 yards with a touchdown himself. Cole Katini was pretty good in this game, and then Kai Nakua had a pick 6 in this game off of Jamar Smith. So a lot of good players here and good performances here for Michigan. For Birmingham, I'm not going to talk too much, but I will say both of their quarterbacks threw an interception. Both of the quarterbacks had under 50% completion rate. So, very good signs for Michigan's passing defense, being able to get 2 turnovers through the air and hold Birmingham to under 50% completion. That could definitely be an issue for DC if Michigan can continue to have that dominant of a pass defense. Also, there's pretty much no rush game for Birmingham in this game, right? Their top running back had only 28 rushing yards, so not a whole lot of performance on the ground for Birmingham. They got a little bit more done through the air, but again, they did have a few interceptions as well. Looking into DC, Jordan Tiami was pretty good. 18 of 26, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. So again, those are solid numbers, but still very much a step down from where Bryce Perkins was. Their rush game was amazing, though. Deion Jackson, 110 yards with 2 touchdowns. Abram Smith had 64 yards himself and another touchdown there. So really, really good on the ground. Receiving, they had a couple of guys do solid. Seth Williams, 61 yards and a touchdown. Cornell Powell had 57 yards, and then Chris Rowland had 42 yards. Also, they had DC had an interception in this game defensively. They held St. Louis to just over 50% completion throughout the entire game. Still not very good. The rush offense was decent for St. Louis, but again, the pass defense for DC was really good, allowed under 200 yards passing. But moving on from there, we are going to look at the attendance and stuff here a little bit for these two games. Michigan and Birmingham had just under 11,000, which is definitely up from Birmingham's average of about 8,800 there. So good numbers for Birmingham comparatively. Right, and then you got DC and St. Louis, which had about 27,000, which is definitely worse than their season average by about 2,000. Not ideal for considering it being a playoff game. You would kind of expect to have higher than your season average, but 27,000 is still a really good number for spring football, but it is a bad number for St. Louis, especially being a playoff game. So the average overall is a little bit up this week because Birmingham did go up by more than what St. Louis went down, but it is pretty much the exact same as the average for both these teams throughout the regular season. Then you got some TV viewership we got to look at. Michigan and Birmingham had 1.1 million average viewers on ABC compared to last year's conference championship that also had 1.1 million viewers on ABC. So ABC was very consistent with their numbers there, which is a good sign that it at least is on par with last year's numbers. But DC and St. Louis on Fox was not on par. 873,000, still a solid number compared to other Fox numbers this year, but it is almost 400,000 less than what Fox got on their conference championship ratings from a year ago. So overall, our average is about 200,000 down, but that is all carried by St. Louis and DC on Fox, being 400,000 less a year ago. Not ideal there. So looking into the UFL Championship game between the Michigan Panthers and the DC Defenders, it takes place Saturday, June 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC. This should be a great game. The top 2 quarterbacks are easily Bryce Perkins and Jordan Tiami this season. They're the 2 guys that still are in contention for the MVP. Bryce Perkins did officially win the Offensive Player of the Year, but the MVP is not announced at the time of this recording. And these are definitely the top 2 MVP candidates, being the quarterbacks for these 2 teams. Overall, both these teams are really good. Obviously, you don't really make it to the championship game without being really good. But I'm going to kind of break this down by position. For the quarterback battle, I'm going to have to give that to Michigan, right? Bryce Perkins, I think, is better than Jordan Ta'amu. It is kind of close, but not necessarily, right? Running back position, I mean, Toa Taua is probably a top 2 running back in the entire NFL. He's probably better than Deion Jackson. Although Deion Jackson and Abram Smith are both solid in their own right, I'm going to have to give the running back battle to Michigan. The wide receiver room, though, I'm probably going to give that to DC, right? They both have 2 really good receivers. Michigan has Malik Turner and COC Mariner. DC has Cornell Powell and Chris Rowland. But I think Cornell Powell and Chris Rowland are both individually better than COC Mariner and Malik Turner. So I got to give the receiving battle to DC. The tight end battle probably goes to DC as well. Both teams actually have like 2 decent tight ends. DC has Bradley Moore McKinney, and I forget the other tight end. He's also pretty good. And then Michigan has Gunnar Oaks and Cole Hicatini, who are both pretty solid as well. That one's pretty much a tie. As far as the offensive line goes, I mean, Michigan had 2 all UFL linemen. DC, I think, had one of them. So Michigan probably wins the offensive line battle, but that is pretty close. I think both teams have pretty good offensive lines. For the defensive line, at least the defensive front 7, I definitely got to give that one to DC. They have the most sacks of any team in the UFL this year. So I gotta give the front 7 defensively to DC. And looking at like the secondary, I'd probably give that to Michigan. They got kind of cool. He's a dog. Of course, both teams have pretty good defenses. Honestly, both teams are pretty much well-rounded. I just say the one weaker spot for Michigan is probably their front 7, and the weaker spot for DC is probably their secondary. So probably not a great thing that DC's weaker spot is their secondary when they're going against probably the best quarterback in the league in Bryce Perkins. But again, DC's defense has been very dominant in the front 7, being very good at getting sacks in this league. Bryce Perkins is very good at evading sacks, but DC is very, very good at getting sacks. So that's going to be a very interesting battle to see how well Michigan's offensive line can hold up against DC. But overall, talking about my prediction for this game, I do think it's going to be pretty close. I believe that when they played earlier in this season, Michigan won like 38-14 or something like that. I think it's probably going to be a lot closer than that. It should be a lot more competitive than last year's UFL championship game. At least I hope it is. If we have another shutout in the championship game, that is not going to be very good look for this league. But overall, I think it's going to come down to how well Michigan's offensive line can hold up against DC's front 7, and it's going to come down to how efficient Jordan Ta'amu is going to be in this game. Is he going to have at least probably 65% completion percentage, which he has had in a decent amount of games this year. But again, I believe his season average is only like 62% completion, which is not good or isn't great, but it is definitely better than what he's had in years past. So overall, I am going to take Michigan in this game. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to take Michigan in this game. If I had to predict a score, I'd probably say something like, I don't know, like 31 to 24 or something. I think they were probably 6 or 7 or so. Definitely, I think it's going to be a one-possession game, but definitely not a field goal game. So like a 6 to 8 point win for Michigan is going to be my prediction. And that is going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week. I will have some UFL ranking videos and some kind of rating and attendance stuff coming out once the season is officially over. And goodbye.